Hey crafters, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to make a heart-shaped easel card, which is perfect for a wedding or celebration card. Hope you enjoy. So I'm starting with my gel plate. This is 5 by 7 inches, and I'm going to use one of the Elements ink. This is the pine color, and I put it on my brayer, and then I just wiped off the extra onto a piece of scrap paper. Sometimes if you put it directly on the gel plate, you get little bubbles on your surface. So once I've covered the entire gel plate, I'm going to add 3 colors of Brusho ink. The first one is the sea green, which is a lovely light green, and then the emerald green, and finally sunshine yellow. And I also added some splatters of just clean water as well. And then I'm going to take an impression of this beautiful background. Now I'm going to die cut this background twice using a smaller nesting heart die. And I used 2 dies from the Newton's Nook set called the Heart Frames die. But any dies would work for this as long as you have at least 2 different sizes. Now once I've die cut these hearts, I ended up die cutting 2. I'm going to add a little scene on the front here. So these hairs are from the Wild Hair set. These are the larger ones, and they look beautiful. And I'm just going to position them so that they're so close they're almost kissing. So romantic. And now I'm going to create a little bit of a focal point behind these hairs using the cheerful ink. And then I'm going to go around this with the lighter green, which is called Green Oasis. And I'm also going to use this color on my little hill mask. This is one of the acetate hill masks from Lavinia. And then using a darker color, this is Rainforest, I'm going to create the bottom part of this hill. And I'll also use this Rainforest color around the outside of the card. And that will help to make this scene a bit more dramatic. And just that little bit of color around the outside makes all the difference. And I'll blend that in with the Green Oasis color. Just gorgeous. So once I'm happy with the background, I'm going to add some of the tree branch stamp around the outside. And I just used a nice light gray for this. It's called Morning Mist, because I wanted the focus to be on the middle part of my heart here. And you could use any of your flower stamps or any of the little tiny Lavinia stamps onto these tree branches. But I used one that is part of the set that's called the Fairy Door. And it's a tiny little leaf with little dots, which I thought looked really nice on this tree and gave it a summer wedding vibe. And I'm just stamping this with the Glamorous ink, which gives a nice contrast on the card. And then to add some color on the bottom of my scene here, I'm going to use the stamp from the Twisted Vine set, the smaller one, and it looks really nice as grass. It's one of my favorite stamps to use on scenes. And then to add a little bit more color onto my wedding scene here, I'm going to use some paint pens in the background. Now the brand of paint pen that I'm using is just called Paint Markers, but they're very similar to Posca pens. If you have those, you can always use them, or you could use gel pens if you prefer. I'm just going to use some red and yellow and then a tiny bit of white. And I think that helps to make it look more like a wedding scene, like there's confetti around these cute little wild hairs. Now since I managed to fit 2 of my heart dies onto that background, I decided to make 2 cards. So I created a similar scene with the wild hairs, but used a different color scheme, just so that you could see the difference the colors make. And I used some thistles on the side as well there. Either one would be perfect for a wedding card. Now to complete the background of my card, I used my larger heart die and I chose some wood pattern paper from my stash. This paper is from the Craft Consortium, and I die cut 3 wooden hearts as well as 1 white heart, and the white heart will be for the back of the card for the sentiment. Now I also took a piece of paper that's big enough so that when I fold it in half, I can fit the heart die on it. And I'm just going to die cut it so that the top of the heart is over the fold, not the pointed bit, but the other part of the heart. And this will be the base of the card. So I'll just tape that in place and die cut it. And you could use this technique with any of your shape dies. I have another video where I did this with a circle die, and I'll link that at the end of the video. So now that I've got my card base, I'm going to score it so that I can make it into my easel card. So I'm lining up the fold line of my card onto my scoring board, and then I'm going to score roughly in the middle there of the heart. Just making sure that that score line is straight, and then I can reinforce it. And that way my easel card will open and close. So now before I glue these hearts into place, I'm just going to line them up and trim off the top part of that heart there. So this one will go on the inside at the top, another one will go on the inside at the bottom, and the third heart is for the outside of the card. And now before I attach them, I'm just going to add a little bit of distress ink. This is Vintage Photo, and I'll put this around the outside of the cards. Now this color works really well with the wood card that I chose, but of course if you have a different pattern paper, you might need to choose a different color of distress ink. But something dark will really help make that paper a little bit more spectacular. So once I've added some ink to those, I'm going to attach my hearts. And I'll start with the inside hearts there and glue them into place. And I just used PVA glue for this so that I can make sure these hearts are in the right place by moving them around. And then I will apply the one on the top. Now because there's a fold there, I need to make sure that I've added a fold onto that top heart. Now once I've glued that one into place, I'll make sure it can still fold, and then I'll add the front heart, the one on the top. Now when you add the last heart, it's important that you only add glue below the fold line so that the recipient can open and close the card. And I'm sorry, but I forgot to film that part. So then using some double-sided foam pads, I'm going to add my heart onto the other heart. And I think this helps make the card a little bit more interesting, just to give it a bit of dimension there. Now you can see the easel card, which opens really nicely. And I just need something in the middle to keep it open. So I'm going to use a little gemstone that I have that's in the shape of a heart. And I'll glue that in the middle there. And then I'll set this aside to dry. But you could always use a sentiment if you prefer. Now for the back of my card, I'm going to use the same wild hairs, and I'm going to stamp them with some Memento gray ink. And I'm just stamping them off on a bit of scrap paper so that they look like a watermarked image on the inside. Then using that same ink, I'm going to stamp congratulations onto the back of my card here. Now I thought that the front of my card needed a sentiment as well, so I'm just using that same ink from the front, the Rainforest ink, and I'm going to blend on a piece of paper, and then using one of the Lavinia sentiments, I'm going to mask off the area that says love, and the sentiment says with love and sympathy, but I'm just going to use the love part. And then I'm going to remove the tape and stamp this in Versamark ink. So I've just got the word love, and I'm going to add some metallic bronze embossing powder and I'll heat set this. Now instead of cutting this into a sentiment strip, I'm just going to cut around the word love so that it's a bit more subtle, and then I can glue this to the front of my card, just on the bottom there. And I thought that just added a finishing touch on my card. So now that it's dry, I'm going to apply my sentiment panel on the back. So just add glue onto the back part here and I can attach it. And I'm really happy with the way this card turned out. I think it will make a beautiful wedding card. It would also make a great card for an anniversary or a special occasion. So now that the jewel is dry, you can see it open as an easel card, or you can leave it flat there. And the other one looks beautiful as well, and it also stands up as an easel card. And as you can see, I used a different wood grain pattern on the card on the right, just to match the background. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video inspiring. Be sure to subscribe so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. Have a crafty day!